Never a doubt. Georgia wins again.
Officiating and these bad calls have a massive impact.
There's a 40-1 on them to win the national title.
You beat Georgia and you skyrocket well in the top 10.
Somebody sent me a slip, Texas minus 3.5, and said, nice pick.
Not profile like a 10 team. They profile like 7 type teams. I can't wait to let 18 to 22 years
I made a call, today, and I said, look, we actually need the paper.
What's going on, guys? Sam, Geoff, was there ever any doubt, I should say, what was going to happen at the cocktail party in Florida this past weekend?
Never a doubt. Georgia wins again. They're hard to kill, Bear. And Kirby Smart continues our streak of winning on this show.
They got close to the cover as well, which we'll talk about later. But I'm tired of hearing about bad beat Georgia. That would have been a much worse beat if they would have scored if you were on Florida. That would have been the bad beat.
Oh, Florida was the right side the entire time. But we
need a bad beat intervention. Now that wagering has become more popular, we're using this term way too liberally. A bad beat would be if you were on Florida and for 59 minutes and 58 seconds you were covering, and then all of a sudden Georgia scores on the final play of the game and you lose the game. It's not a bad beat if you had Georgia. You were never covering the entire game. That is not a bad beat. We have to have an intervention on how we talk about bad beats, guys. We can't continue to do this, okay? It happens every single week. It's not a bad beat if you would have lost that, if you were on Georgia and you would have won that game.
Sounds like one of those little YouTube videos we could put up there for eternity and just kind of educate people on what a bad beat is, what a bad beat is. I wonder if Stanford Steve and SVP have done that already. If they haven't, we might need to put the trademark on that and fire that up at some point and give like a bad beat education. But it was a bad beat too if you got the worst of the number with Texas against Vandy. Texas was never not the right side. Hopefully you won if you bet Texas. Hopefully at the worst you pushed. I don't know. Someone was saying that there might have been a 3.5 out there late, but I didn't see that. But Texas made an emphatic statement against Vandy this past weekend. Dominant win. And now you get an off week to kind of heal up a little bit. Maybe you get those safeties back. Maybe your running back room stays healthy. I don't think they're going to get to the SEC championship game. They're a big price to win the SEC, but are these playoff prices now on Texas maybe looking somewhat appealing, guys?
I think they have to be, right? Texas has now multiple ranked wins. If they can finish the season strong with Georgia, a win at Georgia, right, and a win against A&M, that's 2 more. But more importantly, Sammy, everything else is falling apart around them, right? The ACC, we talked about this last week, was looking at 3 teams potentially in the playoff. Now, one team in the playoff. The Big 12 will probably just have one still. There's a possibility that Oregon loses a couple times and Washington loses once and USC loses again, and the Big 10 ends up with 2 teams. And then who's filling in the playoffs? So a 3-loss Texas with those wins down the stretch is certainly viable to be a postseason playoff team.
I don't know which win would be better either, Bear, but feel like as long as they get one of them, whether it's at Georgia or home against Texas A&M, I feel like one of those would get them in. And the number that we should really discuss, there's a 40-1 on them to win the national title. I'm not saying they're going to, but if they can beat Georgia or A&M, I think the A&M win would be a little bit better because if you beat an undefeated A&M team at the end of the season to put the exclamation point on 9-3, that's probably a better win. And if they get in 15-1 to win the whole thing, but at the same time, as I say that, think about betting 40-1. I know what's going to happen in the playoff. It's going to be 4th and goal at the 2, and Sark's going to put the quarterback in the shotgun, and they're going to lose. So as I discuss this out loud, I think it's a good time to buy, but I also don't think they're going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think they are either. But this is all I have in this conversation because you mentioned all of the carnage in the rankings around them. If you look at the wins that they have, they already got 2 wins over top 15 teams in Oklahoma and Vandy. I don't know how many teams out there have that, maybe other than Alabama. I got to go back and look. You get in what you mentioned about the wins. Like, would you rather Would you rather have the win at Athens and then you climb higher up in the poll, and then you lose to an undefeated A&M in the final game of the season, and A&M is undefeated and they're in, and maybe you don't fall as far? Or do you lose at Georgia in a close game, and then you get the win at the end of the year, and it's like, oh my God, we beat an undefeated A&M, and you get that bump? It's a really interesting conversation. And look, there's no reason to think that they're going to go to Athens and get blown out. I mean, every single game Georgia seemingly plays is coming down to the final possession. They get A&M late in the year, and last year, as bad as their situation was and as good as A&M was at the end of last year, they went to College Station and won. So I do agree. I think these Texas numbers are a little inflated right now. Yes, it's hard to get the overtime wins against Mississippi State and Kentucky out of your mind, because those still do exist, and that is part of Texas's resume. But I think at 9-3, this is the conversation you're going to have to be ready for.
Bear, I think you'd much rather beat Georgia than A&M, and I'll give here's why I think. Right, so right now Texas is 13th in the AP. We find out the playoff rankings come out tomorrow night. You beat Georgia and you skyrocket well in the top 10, right? And then if you lose to A&M, who's undefeated in the last game of the season, you lose by a field goal, you don't get dinged as much, in my opinion, right? You get dinged a little bit, but you'll sort of still be looked at as a top 10 caliber team who just beat Georgia. And on the flip side, if you lose to Georgia, you might fall out of the rankings completely. And then you beat A&M, how far back up are you going to go, right? So I think you take the momentum now that you have with the voters, and potentially being even higher when they vote on Tuesday night, and carry that into beating Georgia. And then I think you have yourself a little bit of leeway at the end of the season if you lose to A&M close, to say, hey, look, man, we lost to a 12-0 team by 3 points. That, I think, keeps them in. I think if they the other way, I think they're out. I think they lose Georgia, they're out of the playoff.
If they were to play tomorrow in Athens, my numbers have Georgia 2 points better on a neutral.
Wow.
Let's give it 4 for home field. So we're Texas plus 5.5, plus 6 potentially. 1 score spread, which means, of course, they could win, no doubt. I wanted to put a ribbon on the Texas conversation, though, that you brought up, Bear, because on this show last week, on the Thursday show, I said take Texas -2.5. And then we all got delayed in New York on Thursday for different reasons. I was running in the rain to make my train, soaking wet like a dog, and then a tree branch fell on the train tracks outside of New Haven, so I didn't get home until like 10 o'clock at night. When I put the newsletter out, I had Texas -3. Somebody sent me a slip, a Bear Bets follower on Saturday, Texas -3.5, and said, nice pick, bitch. And I mean, we love the comments, and comment on that if you think that's a bad idea to lay 3.5. And we talked about it at 2.5 and 3. Is that my fault or your fault when you lay 3.5?
Yeah, sounds like a you problem. And I am glad you mentioned the weather. Travel is an absolute frigging nightmare this year. Like, I can count, like Geoff and I have been in New York the last couple of years. Sammy, you've been in New York this year. I can count on one hand in the last 2 years that I had a cancellation, weather delay, anything, getting out of New York on Thursdays to wherever Big Dune was going. Every week it has been something. Like the weather like we had on Thursday, it happens, but it's either that or we get out there. We get the text during the show. We've joked about it all. Your Delta flight, blah, 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 is delayed 92 minutes right now. And it's every week. It's so frustrating right now. We should be setting the over-under, Geoff, this week on the line for how often. We currently pushed back from the gate. We're now headed out to the runway. We are currently number 21 in line, so it's going to be a while before we push back. So every week it's something like that.
This is why I fly to Newark for the most part. I was at LaGuardia last week because Newark has more runways and less congestion. The thing with LaGuardia, so we got delayed. And it happens. It happens every week. I didn't say nothing about it on social media. I just sat my butt in the lounge. I waited 5 hours and flew home. Like I was glad to get a flight out. I wasn't going to complain about it, but now we're here. I get to LaGuardia. It's raining. I asked the person at the lounge, like, hey, why? The rain is sort of done. Why are we delayed? Why is every flight delayed? Why is everything canceled? Well, we have 2 runways and, there's no FAA right now. Like, okay, fair on the FAA thing. I get it. But like, why is there a ground stop? I live in Charlotte. It rains in Charlotte too. We still fly in the rain. I don't get why the airport, that's the thing. Every time it rains in New York City, please, someone comment to us. Tell me why. I'd love to know why. Why does everything just shut down? Why does the airport close for 2 hours when it's raining? I don't understand it. I don't get it. There was flooding in New York. Unfortunately, people actually passed away. Like, that wasn't happening at LaGuardia though. So I'm so confused on like why the airport just was like, we're not doing it today. We're closing for 2 hours. It was surprising, but
it was amazing because I was canceled. Literally get there, no issue through security. We're good. And I'm in line for like a half hour to get into the club because I knew I was delayed. And then like literally the moment I walked into the club, it was like, oh, your flight's canceled. So I'm on. What am I going to do? Can you get me on there? I wouldn't. I don't think anything's taken off from LaGuardia now. Okay. So what about tomorrow? Well, we can only get you on standby. There are no guaranteed seats available. Okay. The only thing we can do is get you on a connecting flight out of JFK, leaving at 12:25 to get you in at 5:50. So like, then of course the best is you get, okay, now I got to take a cab, an hour and 15-minute cab ride down the Van Wyck for bumper to bumper traffic and rain, open up the window because it's hot as hell in the cab. Car comes up the shoulder, flies, sprays water in the window over the little crack that I have it in. So now my leg is soaked. Get to the JFK Marriott, enjoy a night there. Go get JFK the next day. Of course, delayed to take off. Have literally go from gate to gate, walk on the plane like they're boarding like zone 7 when I finally get to gate. So nearly missed the connection, but we did get there, and then finally did get to Columbus. So there's my travel rant. I haven't even gotten into the fact that we got bludgeoned in the Breeders' Cup. Miami had a soul-crushing loss. Got knocked out of last man standing. So it was a fun weekend. Did have a great time with my nephew on Sunday at his birthday party. But circle back to football. But it's fun to get that stuff out.
Dude, people
like hearing us bitch and complain.
I just
and
didn't
all
know
the
Sammy,
random shit that happens to us.
The thing about the train though is I figured you'd never have delays. And to hear Sammy, like a branch fell on the track. Is that where the train was just? Is that what you said?
A tree got struck by lightning and fell on the tracks outside New Haven. And then they get on the loudspeaker. Yeah, there's a tree that's fallen and there's no ETA to removal. I'm like, perfect. I'm sitting there soaked. My book bag is soaked. I'm soaked. I'm not getting on. I might electrocute myself on my laptop. So you just sit there and take it.
Oh, yeah. I just watch football. I mean, luckily football was on. If it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, I probably feel a little bit different about it. But we were able to watch Thursday Night Football and watch the Dolphins implode and whatnot. But yeah, at least it was football on. So I do. Correct. At least it was Thursday night. Let's hope this week, Bear, no travel issues as you go to Iowa.
Now, knock on wood, man. I'll take like a half hour delay, like 30 minutes. That's like built in. We'll deal with it. Who's going? Can the next team to lose in the ACC please stand up? Who the hell is going to play in the ACC championship game now? What a ridiculous week of football again in the ACC. Miami going down to SMU, Georgia Tech going down, and that line movement, both games actually. The line movement in both of those games, Miami opened up at whatever they did during the week. That got as low as 8.5. SMU wins outright. Georgia Tech was 6.5 early in the week. That got down to like 5. Like all the movement, Sammy told you everything you kind of needed to know in those games, right?
No doubt, especially in the Miami and SMU game, because this was bet up, as we talked about on the show. Miami opened up as a 9-point favorite at Circa, and it got to 12.5. And I never thought that was the right number. And then we saw multiple bets discussed on Bruce and the Bear Friday. There was a $30,000 bet at one sportsbook on SMU plus the 12.5, and it was sort of spread around town. Now, I didn't think Miami was going to lose. I don't think you did either, but at the same time, not really surprising. That's now 4-11 Miami with Mario in November and December, and that's straight up. That's not ATS. So in terms of winning the ACC and teams that lost last weekend that might make the playoff, I mean, how do you not just start with the team right there on top, Georgia Tech? Schedule is definitely doable. They play Georgia, but that's not an ACC game, so that's not going to hold them back. They are favored now. I'm still upset. We had this conversation like 4 weeks ago, and Duke was 10-1 to win the ACC. And I remember bringing it up, and I did nothing with it. And there they are on line number 2, plus 290.
That's what we talked about. We talked about, I even mentioned, like, what kind of price could I get on Duke to make the ACC championship game? And we're like, oh, let's just start the money line parlay with the Georgia Tech game. And then they lose that. And you're like, yeah, they're probably out of it now. And then sure enough, things go their way, and there they are.
The thing about Georgia Tech, though, that I think is really hard is that, when you are one-dimensional in offense, which they are not the best passing team. Now, I love their run game. I love what King can do. Like, it's just hard to, as the season goes on, I think, to win these games as your team is one-dimensional, Bear. Like, that continues to be an issue late in November, right? We talked about this on the show on Thursday. As soon as it turns November, weird stuff happens. We saw it this weekend. So if you're Georgia Tech, can you avoid this happening again, where your defense doesn't play as well? You just can't keep up offensively. So I think they're probably the best team right now at the top. But look, Virginia keeps winning, man. That was
crazy.
I don't know how they covered that. I think you had like Cal early in the week, right? In that game, and I don't think you actually ended up on Cal.
No.
Third in the contest. We'll give you a shot. By the way, ever since you no,
I'm not third anymore.
I thought you're fourth.
No, I'm tied for second.
Oh,
let's go, Bear. Let's go.
You said a week, 3 weeks ago, I had to filibuster about a minute between segments. I mentioned you were 5th place, and you said that I was jinxing you. I feel like the opposite has happened now. As you're tied for second, you're 3 points back, correct? I have that correct,
yes.
At least?
Yeah, 3 points back. I gained a point this week, and am now, tied for second. Yeah. So we'll see. See what happens. It's getting real now. 4 weeks to go.
Speaking of that, Bear, I did want to bring up this tweet I saw from a very angry Bear Bets listener that I saw over the weekend. At Chris Fallica, you are the worst handicapper. I need to start taking the opposite of your picks. You lose me money every week.
Really?
What show is he watching, Bear? You're in second place in the contest.
Yeah, I was gonna say I kind of put the picks out there in the contest every week, and I think I'm 37, 23, and 3. I think is what I just checked the Circle Friday Football Invitational picks, and I think that's what I am in that contest. And I think I'm like 44 and 18 or something like. I don't even know what it. I think whatever. I have like whatever it is in the Superbook one.
Yeah,
and
you're
then,
like 20 over 500 in that one.
And then in the column on foxsports.com, which obviously the picks are written up earlier in the week, I think I'm like 10 games over 500 or 9 games over 500 in that. Like, what is it? You want to kill me for the Breeders' Cup? Go ahead and kill me for the Breeders' Cup. That terrible Breeders' Cup. That's absolutely fine. You want to go at me and crush me? Fine. I welcome all the comment and the feedback. I love the interaction, but at least be like real with what you're doing. I'm always like, I hate kind of taking, like, being positive and taking credit, because I don't want to put the whammy on myself. It was funny because someone actually said to me this past weekend or last week before the picks with the contest that, oh, you should start tweeting out what the leader has as well, the guy ahead of you. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And I'm like, no, I don't want to change any of the mojo, any of the karma, anything what I've been doing, because what I've been doing so far is worked out so well, just kind of using like a combo of the picks that I like early in the week, then kind of later in the week with line moves and talking with people and just kind of getting the lay of land. It's worked out well. So I don't want to kind of get too involved with what other people are picking and booking their picks. And I start thinking, do I want to start playing on their picks? That way, if they keep winning, then and I don't get any points, it just seems like still too early for that. 4 weeks left. It ends on the 29th. So we'll see. We'll see if we can avoid that 3 and 4, 2 and 5 type week. That'll take me out of the running. But before I want to ask a question here. And then we're going to circle back, and I'm going to have my Miami thoughts. Which team that lost this weekend? I guess the 3 logical ones, and I think you kind of already gave you the answer with Miami, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt. Which of those 3 is the most likely to make the playoff? Or is there someone else that lost this weekend that you think might be most likely to make the play. Maybe even a team that lost Thursday or Friday.
I gotta say, Miami could easily be 10-2, Bear, but I think perception matters here, right? Where they're going to look at 10-2 and look at how this went down and think that they're not a team, even with Notre Dame win, that's a playoff team. Perception matters, right? In this situation, I'm just not sure that people will feel. I mean, Miami feels like the best. They play Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt.
Right.
They should be 10-2. They should be 10-2. But that our team, the voters going to look at them and think they're one of the best 11 teams in the country. I'm not sure. Perception does matter. And the perception right now is this team is not clutch enough to win these games in November. So I think it's still Miami. They're going to be 10-2. I could be wrong again. I got old takes exposed this weekend, or freezing takes, whatever it was.
You did?
I did, yeah, to Miami. I said, because after they beat someone early October, I said Miami's the best team in the country. I think it's after Florida State win.
Yeah, you were clearly the only person that said that.
And Miami's going to, and Beck's going to win the Heisman. I was trying to root on Sammy there, so maybe you can blame me for that loss there. But it's so funny how when you get something wrong, people, they attack you, which is part of the game, right? Like, you can go in our comments right now, Instagram, YouTube, wherever else, comment away on how good or bad we are. Bears been good, comment on that. I suck this year, comment on that. Whatever you want, interact with us, please do that. But like people say, you're supposed to be the expert. How can you get something wrong? We give opinions 5 days a week. Sammy has radio every day. You're gonna get some stuff wrong. Like, you're gonna get things wrong in the course of giving out picks and thoughts throughout the week. I just love how people get so passionate about telling you how terrible you are, but then when you get something right, it's crickets, of course.
So from a power rating standpoint, just to give you an idea, I've got Miami so much higher than Georgia Tech, like 10 points better. Right? And like, I'm thinking, like, are my numbers just that far off? But then who do I trust more, Bear? Like, numbers only get you so far. If you just pick games on power ratings, you're not going to win anywhere near 60% because, the point spread is the great equalizer. Point spread is always better than a power rating because power ratings are, very personally driven and very shifted in your favor to what you consider important. But Miami's better. I'm sorry. I was dancing around the Bear Bet studio doing this in August, and now I'm like, I really wish that clip wasn't online. So I don't trust that team, and that is somebody, Carson Beck, who I bet to win the Heisman. I have no faith in him. I just don't trust him, Bear.
Well, it's pretty clear that somebody, whether it's Mario Cristobal, whether it's Shannon Dawson, whether it's whomever, didn't trust him enough to try and win that game with a timeout and 25 seconds left from your own 25-yard line, needing, 32 yards, 35 yards to have a legit chance to win that game in regulation.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, as a Miami alum and the people that I've been in massive group thread chat with, I mean, this isn't like just like fan guys. It's like people like like us, like some commentators, media types. Don't like. I think the questions we are all asking is people who are supporting this program through thick and thin are, number one, how does this continually happen every year where we seem to play? I say we as Miami seems to play.
You went to Miami though. You can say we, Bear.
I did. I did. I have a proof of purchase back there on the wall somewhere. How do they continually, year in and year out, fade the way they do? Sammy, you brought it up, 4-11 in November and December. The best game they played all year was the first game of the year against Notre Dame. And it's gone down since. Is it a depth thing? Is it an injury thing? Is it opponents seeing Miami's tendencies and they become easier to scout? And maybe Miami is like making midseason adjustments to try to kind of like stay ahead and be different. Why, after including a drive starting at the 7-yard line, why are you only getting 20 points in a game against SMU? That's a problem. Why do you just does there seem to be a lack of skill position guys right now? I mean, Malachi Tony's fantastic, But obviously, you're losing C.J. Daniels now. Maybe for the season, I'm hearing could be a bad thing. And when you look at Miami in the grand scheme of things, and Geoff, you started talking about it, there is a very real path to 10-2. Like that is possible. But again, you're looking at a 10-2 where you're going to have the win over Notre Dame at the beginning of the year, and maybe you're in a position where it becomes down to a Miami Notre Dame head-to-head type deal. And there will be people, I'm sure, in the room if that is the case. And it comes down to those two teams. They say, Miami did beat Notre Dame 10-2. 10-2, they should go. But at the same time, like you said, I think there is also going to be voices in the room, and there should be clear debate and conversation that, okay, but Notre Dame, Miami, they played week 1, CJ Carr's first start on the road. Miami won in the final couple of minutes of the game. I think as the season gone on, you had Notre Dame, you lost a game to Texas A&M on a terrible call. You won 10 straight. You got better. You're playing your best ball at the end of the year. Miami is not playing. And I think that will matter as well. And I don't want to sound like the officiating guy, but there were two. One, the fumble that they called on Kevin Jennings on the field, and they reviewed that and said, nah, that was an egregious error. In my opinion, like that game's a fumble. Miami gets the ball there right at a half. Game's over there. The personal foul they called on Lightfoot on the final drive with seconds to go. Like he held the guy up. Like how are you calling personal? Like I don't want to be, because you complain about the officiating and you sound like you're whining. But those two calls were terrible. Miami did enough during the game on penalties on their own where they didn't need those questionable calls as well. And it just goes to show, like this year, you've got a bunch of instances where officiating and these bad calls have a massive impact. What happens if they call the holding penalty on Texas A&M at Notre Dame on the final play of the game in week 2? Texas A&M's not undefeated. Notre Dame's got one loss, and they're in the playoff. The blatant offsides on Georgia Tech at Wake Forest that they did not call. Georgia Tech's got 2 losses now, and maybe they're going to be on the outside of the playoff. Look at him. The Auburn-Georgia game with the officiating debacles in that game. Maybe that has Georgia with an additional loss. They don't come back and win on the road if they're going down in the locker room 17-0. So, like, these calls, these mistakes. In the conferences they officiate. We apologize, and there was a clear. It doesn't change the 1-loss record. So there needs to be some consequences for these officiating mistakes as well.
Well, one of the SEC officials got suspended, right, for the rest of the season, like a longtime official, for the way the Auburn Georgia game went down. So here's my officiating take has always sort of been the same, and I think I feel very strongly about this. So you mentioned holding, Bear, pass interference. Like some of the calls that are judgment calls are going to be missed, right? It's the nature of the game. You have 2 officials, essentially, maybe 3 watching offensive linemen. Maybe you look one direction, guy falls down because he's held. You don't see it. You don't call it. Okay, that's fair, right? Pass interference, you might miss that. But to me, like the yes, no, and the procedural issues cannot happen, right? Like, was it a face mask, yes or no? You should be able to review that upstairs, very simply, right? Was a knee down, was a not down, right? And then, getting back to Auburn, Oklahoma, if someone used an illegal formation, you should be able to buzz down and say, hey, guys, that's not allowed. We can't do that, right? And we saw in the NFL last night where the Chiefs weren't better than Buffalo. I was wrong about that game. Buffalo should have won that game. But, they call it intentional grounding on Mahomes.
Tip ball.
Very, very clearly throwing to someone, ball gets tipped. Like, you should be able to say, yes, no, right? Was the ball tipped or not? No. Those to me have got to change. And procedural issues. So I've gone back for years with like the Pac-12 where procedural problems are always the issue. It's on the field. Look, judgment calls, Sammy, you're going to miss those. It happens, but you cannot get the procedural things and the yes, no. One's wrong, in my opinion, when you have all the technology available to not get them wrong. I also don't like the Texas game, back to Texas game. Vanderbilt never got the ball over there. I don't know how you watch the replay of that and say definitively the ball crossed the plane. And we used to have this idea where you had to have enough evidence to overturn the call in the field, and it had to be. We don't do that anymore. We just make it up as we go. So that's my officiating rant, Bear. Procedural things, yes, no's. They have to get those right.
At the same time as my Bradley St. Bonnie's under just came through at 1:10 p.m. on Monday.
It's so funny you said that. People are probably tired of hearing me, but I'm literally like watching my text messages pop up on the screen, and it's a combination of Bradley St. Bonaventure texts and a buddy of mine saying his daughter had an absolute meltdown at the dentist. So it's so funny you're dialed into the bodies and Bradley as well right now.
I had under 139. We got there. It was
Beautiful.
sweaty, but we got there. Last thing on Miami, when you are a 12-point favorite or 11, 10.5, whatever you want to call it. At one point, it was 12.5. When you're a 12.5, 11, 10.5 point favorite on the road and you outpossess the other team 38-22, you got to win the game.
What SMU have, like 30 yards rushing, I think, something like that. If that
23 yards rushing. Yep. Miami had 433 yards of offense and 38 minutes of possession. You can't lose that game, period.
No, you can't. And that's why the officiating thing was the last thing that I mentioned, because despite all that, they did enough to have one of my good buddies is SMU grad because I have no idea how you lost that game. So I do, because it keeps happening. But go 10-2, see what happens. What other bad beats we have this week? I know we hit on the Georgia Florida thing. Like that was not really a bad beat. It was ugly. If you had Georgia, like you got the hope of Florida was the right side the whole game, guys.
The Cal one was bad. Cal was bad. And I hope it deflates them enough, because I have under 5.5 wins and they are 5-4 right now, Bear. So I need them to lose out at Louisville, at Stanford, home against SMU. But they had the cover wrapped up. And then with 45 seconds left to go, the freshman we all love, Geoff, right to the other team. They run it back for a touchdown. Lose by 10, catching 6.5. That's a bad beat. I mean, you're down 3 points with 45 seconds to go, and you do not cover because the freshman quarterback decides, I'm going to throw this ball right to the other team. And then, of course, nobody is tracking down the return man who broke free and gets into the end zone.
I always love thinking about, like, sometimes when guys go down and sometimes when they score, like, what's the decision-making process in their brain? Like, do they just decide? Because if they would have gone down, the game was over, right? I think Cal had no timeouts left. If you just fall down, the game's over, but you wanted the glory and score. I don't blame them in either direction for wanting to do that. Bear, I'm kind of upset our Illinois team total over didn't get home. It's not really a bad beat, but they only had 7 possessions in non-garbage time. Like that's nothing against Rutgers. They covered the game, still had and still didn't get over the team total with 5 touchdowns and 7 possessions. I was a little salty about that one. It's not a bad beat per se, but the way they were playing that game, they had 500 yards in offense. You would have thought we would have gotten over the Illinois team total there.
Yeah, the Penn State game was interesting too, because Penn State has certainly had their chances first and goal late to kind of get in there, and Ohio State was a big public play, and give the public a throw them a ball.
GPT, baby.
They got the win. What was that?
Chat GPT, baby. Number 1 play, Ohio State.
Yep.
Has Sammy told you this story, Bear? Has he told you the story?
He mentioned last week that someone did. Yeah, did he come back with Ohio State? Come back with Chat GPT this week?
He's in a progressive college football pick'em pool where you pick every top 25 game. In week 1, every win is worth a point. In week 2, they're worth 2. And week 3, they're worth 3. So it progresses throughout the season. But you have a best bet and a second best bet. The best bet's worth 50, and the second best bet is worth 25. So in week 7, you get 7 points per win, 50 for the best bet, and 25 for the second best bet. He has been asking Chat GPT every week for the best bets, and the best bet has hit every week but one. It's that simple. You ask the robot, who gives you 5 favorites every single week, and the number 1 pick from Chat GPT was minus 20.5 Ohio State, and he hit again.
It's insane. Yeah, I was thinking about when Gunnar Stockton took that knee, like how disappointing would like Trenton Sturdivant and like Mark Richt would have been. I mean, that was like my favorite moment in that rivalry, when they scored and they were talked about how they're not emotional and they get what, and the entire team went out and kind of danced after the touchdown when they finally snapped that losing streak to Florida. Like what are those poor Georgia Bulldogs like thinking now? Sportsmanship and sliding down and not looking to run up the score against the Florida Gators, who, by the way, That's one of the lines I am kind of eyeing this week right now. I saw Florida -3.5 against Kentucky. Kentucky got you freeze fired. And by the way, 2 weeks in a row now, Brian Kelly was unable to come on Bear Bets early in the year. You freeze declined on schedule, unable to happen. Brian Kelly and you freeze now no longer the head coaches of their team. So coincidence? You decide. But Kentucky pulled the upset last week. Now they're a home underdog to Florida, who give the Gators credit week in and week out. They continue to play hard. I'll be interested to see if that line moves, because Florida clearly power rates much higher than a 3-5 team or whatever the hell their record seems to indicate they are. And then Kentucky, can they pull another outright upsets? That game I'm interested in. And the other one now, James Madison, people are on JMU is maybe a team that can be discussed as the group of 5 rep. I don't think they will be, but now they're under 13.5, under that magic number of 14 on the road at Marshall, who is not as bad as I think a lot of people expected them to be. It'll be interesting to see how many people come in at Marshall on 13.5, and we'll see if that number eventually hits 14 or goes across 14.
That Marshall
really
sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jeff.
Marshall played Coastal on Thursday. Bear was one of the games I was watching as I was delayed, and they had
You were delayed on Thursday?
Yeah, I was, and they had 7 turnovers. I think we have to look at that result against Coastal, and that's not really what they are. So you get 2 touchdowns, Bear. That seems like a spot to play Marshall. Sorry, no, go ahead, Sammy.
It's okay. I forgive you. I promise. Notre Dame Navy. It's a big number, but it's getting bigger. Open 24.5, just north of one of the key numbers, right? 7, 14, 17, 21, 24. So they open at 24.5, and the initial bets were on the Irish, out to 25.5 now. I make this game 30 on a neutral. So what's home field at Notre Dame, Bear? I probably find myself on the Notre Dame side of things. We shall see. I understand people want Notre Dame to slip up. I don't think it's happening here. And then the other one, we talked about SMU, and now we're going to talk about SMU all week. Well, they go from an 11-point dog to an 11-point favorite.
I love the angle here.
I will probably look to take Boston College. Some books in Vegas are down to 10.5. I have a feeling this is going to close 10 or lower by the time we get to Saturday.
BC played and Notre Dame close in that game. Notre Dame, I think they can't play any worse offensively. I think they're going to dominate Navy, as you mentioned.
Jeremiah Love has been on one lately.
He had that long touchdown run with 95 yards. It was fantastic. Quickly on mine here, I took Indiana -13.5 at Penn State. Indiana is a freaking freight train, man. They're gonna dump. What's Penn State gonna do in this game if they haven't given up already? Which I don't think they did terribly against Ohio State, but they can't score.
That's the thing. You're just absolutely limited on offense.
And Indiana, the thing about them is they bury you, man. That Maryland game was a 10-point game early in the third quarter. And then there was pick 6, interception, touchdown. 55-10 was the final score, something like that. It was insane. It went from a cover for Maryland all the way to the end. Guys, Colorado is in a bad place. Oof. This number is so bad. This is a terrible number. West Virginia -6.5. West Virginia is not good at all. Now they upset Houston, which is a play that we
was that one of the picks that the Bear Bets listener added me at, that I'm the worst handicapper?
Yes, I sent you the screenshot. He actually replied to a post of you saying bet West Virginia +13.5. That's the screenshot, and he responded to that and said,
"Wow, nice
handicapper."
West Virginia ended up being a double play, Bear, on 2 of the people that we tend to disagree with, and they both were on Houston. So it was a good play for us there. I mean, look, Colorado's lost 53-7 and 52-17 the last 2 weeks. They're starting Juju Lewis, I believe, making his first road start. I just think this is a really bad spot for them. Nearly 7's wild.
That's the one thing
this good.
You got to worry about, though, and Sammy mentioned it with SMU. You go from being a 13-point dog, pulling the outright upset, and now you're favored by a touchdown. That's always a risky proposition.
But what is Colorado, though? Think about it. They got blown up by Utah. They come home, and they get dominated again. They're not good. They're just – how many guys have given up? I don't really know. The other one, of course, Iowa money line. There's no other way to play this game, guys.
Excuse me?
I'm surprised Oregon's even a favorite in this game. It feels – you're wearing your Iowa hat.
Here we go.
You're ready to look. All I've look, it's early. It's early Monday. I just see these. Everyone's coming out with their new CFB projections, and Oregon's off. Oregon's off a bunch of them. Guys that had Oregon in championship games are off. They're off. They're off.
Wow, so they're gonna, not only are they losing this week at Kinnick, they're gonna lose it at UW as well, or are they gonna lose to SC?
I think they're gonna lose to all of them. So Oregon's looking at, what are we, 7-1 now? So 8-4. We'll probably beat Minnesota next week. Money's coming in Iowa, though. The number keeps going down and down and down.
Yeah, I was going to be a very popular underdog this week. You know that, but you know how that goes, though. Like, Oregon was off last week. Everyone's going to be talking about going to Kinnick now. By the way, it's not the early body clock game anymore, Jeff.
No, it's not.
Which will help. And you know that Oregon, Lanning, and they will be ready for this game. The public dog is a very, very dangerous thing to.
In last thing on this game too, Big Ten fans, we talked about this last week with the weather, and it's such a bad weather game. It's going to be like 60 degrees and sunny in Iowa this weekend. So I'm fearful for the cold weather that the Big Ten fans promised me we get in November in all the Big Ten cities. So I hope Oregon can survive the 60-degree high that we're going to see on Saturday with clear skies. It can't be colder in Eugene this time of year. No, heaven forbid it actually is.
60 degrees feels good. That's perfect bear weather for on the set.
Love it. Iowa money line.
We're gonna hear this all week. I have a.
You bet it. Thursday in studio is going to be fun. I will have as much Oregon gear. I didn't do it for the Indiana game. We lost. It's coming back out, buddy. All of it.
Good. Well, I even wore my Iowa corn hat here for you as well. I got this in Ames a few years ago when we were there for Cy-Hawk. Maybe I'll have to see if I can find any Iowa. Maybe I'll go out and get like a Caitlin Clark Iowa jersey from a few years ago, or just like a Chuck Long football jersey or something, just to kind of rub it on Thursday. Rub it in your face for
please
Thursday. So, Sammy, you want to contribute any berating of Geoff here, or are you good?
Let's wait for Thursday. I'll be ready.
I like it. Save it for the air.
Can we berate the Blue Jays for not winning that series? Come on, Blue Jays.
Go right ahead.
You're there. You just win the game. Not to listen to my Dodger friends brag all for another year, Bear. I was so looking forward. I was ready to go. I was ready to go to knock them down a peg, to laugh about their salary deferrals and how much money they're paying, and we couldn't win anyways. And the Blue Jays, maybe the most excruciating Game 7 loss in modern history for anyone. Rojas has 57 home runs over 12 seasons. He haven't had a hit in a month. And they got Ohtani out the next at bat. And then they hang a curve. They basically made 2 bad pitches in the last 3 innings, and both of them made over the fence.
I went from wanting Toronto to win to being ecstatic that it was funny because I was in the car on the ride home from the airport, and Leinert, and massive Dodgers fan, and I sent him a text. We're going back and forth in our group, and I was like, I would not be bringing Ohtani back out for the 3rd inning. He gave up some hard hit balls. It was clear he was not missing many bats. And Leinert gave me a wise ass comment about shut up. Don't give me your bad mojo because you're upset Miami lost. I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, you watch the game, and to see Bichette go yard on him with the 3-yard home run and that be it, I was like, now this is the perfect scenario. I am rooting so hard for the Jays to win because we've gone for complete 180. The reason the Dodgers are going to lose is because of their insistence on running Ohtani back out there again. So I went from that to later in the game when it was, they're going to bring in Yamamoto, and I had a Yamamoto a plus 950 series MVP bet. And I'm like, okay, now I want the Dodgers to come back and win. And when they did, and then ultimately, because he's got this is going to be an all-time historic, epic performance if he comes back in, shuts them down, and they get the win. And for the game to end the way it was a great World Series, and not sure the right team won, but best team, right team don't always win.
I mean, it's what Joe Davis said, right? Like, to be the king, you have to kill the king. And that's what basically he said at the final call. Like, the Blue Jays had opportunity. Dog shit 203 in the series, had opportunities all the time and just couldn't get it done. I mean, even like the final play of the night, well, I guess the second out of the ninth inning, like, got to slide head first, in my opinion, right? You probably get home a little bit quicker going head first. I don't really buy the whole leadoff thing. Like, the other major leaguers are tweeting about that. You go find their tweets. Like, that's their deal. But like, slide head first, like little things like that, right? The tiny little things that just didn't happen. Again, I'm a Dodgers hater, so I do not like the result.
So what is it now? We have a season this year, and then there's no 2027. That's right. Is that where we're at?
Baseball
lockout coming this year.
Baseball would be very foolish to have that happen, because I think like 25 million people watch Game 7. It would be was a good baseball season, and they got to fix the payment deferral stuff. I don't think they can do that next CBA. But you can't have a lockout. You just can't. You can't do it.
And in case you forgot, Bear, that's 2 straight years where we've smashed these totals. White Sox under 2 years ago, Rockies under this year. Stand by for 2026.
And go. White Sox over too, right?
Yeah, but the Rockies under was way more fun.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was, and there were so many, like, they couldn't make it low enough. Like, I think I got in like as low as under 47.5, I think is where I finally ultimately stopped. But yeah, that was good. Cannot wait. We'll, of course, when they start posting these baseball win totals, we'll have some thoughts, and hopefully we can get in with a couple of really, really, really bad teams and some nice low unders that they come home with absolutely zero sweat. So we're not just a football show, guys. We cover it all. Anyway, it's all for now. Enough ranting and rambling from us about anything from travel to baseball win totals. That's what we're here for. Appreciate everybody for watching, rate, review, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Chime in. We enjoy the comments. So for Geoff, for Sammy, and Bear, remember, less you bet, more you lose when you win.